Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Rugby Rant. This is episode 220. I'm the big guy, Scott Ferrara. I'm finally back, baby. So real quick, for those of you that may know or may not know, me and my wife are foster parents. We fostered and then adopted our now 2-year-old son. We had the opportunity to foster his younger brother, which we're doing, and we're currently looking to adopt him at some point in the future. But what happens is you get 2 kids, they go to 2 different daycares. For those of you that don't know, my 2-year-old son's special needs. He's nonverbal. He doesn't walk. He goes to a special program. So there's a lot of stuff trying to get around changing to a 2-kid household, especially with 2 kids under 2. And so I took some time away from the Rugby Rant. So I really appreciate the hammer, really kicking into high gear, getting a bunch of episodes out, getting a bunch of interviews out. So I really appreciate that. But now I'm back, and I'm here with our old buddy Rick Collins and our new friend, Ashley Aardsma. How are you guys?
So good.
Doing really good. Glad you asked us on. I'm excited for the show. Maybe not so excited about Major League Rugby, but there could be news coming that will excite us.
We'll see. We're supposed to have some sort of news coming out by the time of this episode. Maybe it's already come out midweek, but we're supposed to have some more clarification on what's going on with the league. And that's kind of what our topic is today. But before we get to our topic, for those of you that are going to be in Chicago, we are going to have our Rugby Rant party at Reggies. So on November 1st, the day of the Irish-New Zealand match, doors open for Reggies for a pre-match party at 9. Rugby Rant is on at 11 live. If you're there, come check us out. We're going to have a bunch of live guests with us. And then we're hopping the bus, going to the match, and we're going to have a ton of fun over at Reggies. So come check us out. So that now that that's out of the way, we're going to go to our Around the Pitch. Ricky, baby, you're up, brother.
Oh, brother. Canada and the USA qualified for the 2027 Rugby World Cup in Australia. I'm already thinking about making plans to go to Australia. It's been on our short list of places to go, Australia, New Zealand. So we will probably figure out a way to make it there. But it was a real long shot. I think both teams were kind of a toss-up, and we thought it was going to be one or the other. To get both in, I think, has been a huge surprise. Maybe not as big a surprise once everybody saw the roster that Samoa had submitted for the PNC. So excited to have both of them there. It was sad to see kind of the state of Samoa at this point. They've still got a shot. They've got to beat Chile in Denver, I believe, in Glendale, and then either beat them there or beat them in Chile. And obviously points, we remember what happened with the United States. So got to win, get them in. And if Samoa gets in, we've got a good shot of getting into that third tier, which is the key for the United States getting an opportunity to potentially win a game at the Rugby World Cup in 2027. For Canada, I'm not as hyped about what position they could get. Obviously, their current standing is lower, so we'll see what happens. But I think both teams getting there is a huge win for North American rugby.
Triple A, you're up.
Totally. So PNC championships are here in Salt Lake City this upcoming weekend. So we've got the third place match at 4:35 Mountain Time. It's going to be Tonga versus Canada. And then we've got the championship, which is Japan versus Fiji. And that game's going to be wild at 7:35. And then we actually get that bonus game with Samoa in Chile. It's going to be here in Salt Lake City on Saturday.
Awesome.
Yep. Also on Saturday, I think it was we did the time translation because we had seen it in Samoan time, and I think it's 11 a.m. Mountain Time. But it is Saturday morning before the PNC third place and championship match. So I'm pretty pumped about that.
Dude, that's a ticket right there. That's a ticket.
That's a great ticket.
Yeah, you got a qualifier option, and then you get your third place in your championship match.
With that mountain view in the background.
Whew, seriously.
Yep. It's at America First Field, so it's right on the mountainside, 90th South, and it's going to be sunset in the background to the west for the championship game. It's going to be
picturesque.
Awesome.
It's funny you mentioned the time zone thing. So I think I've told this story probably 4 or 5 times on the rant before, but we're going on my honeymoon. We're going to the UK. We're spending a lot of time in London. I'm a Saracens fan. We're doing a whole bunch of stuff that my wife wants to do. I'll kiss my ass. So I'm like, oh, we have the opportunity to go watch the Saracens, and it's during Six Nations. So what's this? Oh my God, who the frig was the prop was on the team? I'm blank. I got baby
The
brain.
American prop?
Yeah, what's his fit? TT Lamosatelli was on the team. So at this point, because it's Six Nations, he's gonna start. So I'm like, oh, we get to go to so I see the match is at 3 p.m. So I buy the tickets. So like 2 days before we're gonna leave, I'm looking at it and I go, yeah. It was I'm sorry, it was 10 a.m. That's what it was. It was 10 a.m. The ticket said 10 a.m. And then I'm looking at him. I'm like, why does it say 3 p.m.? We have a flight to catch at 2. What the fuck? And I realized I bought the tickets on Eastern Standard Time. That's what it was telling me. So unbeknownst to me, that night my wife calls, changes our flight, gets an extra day in the hotel just so I can go to the rugby match.
Wow.
Guess how
you
much?
have a great wife.
Guess how much it cost extra?
$2,000.
$1,000.
50 euros. Just to
What?
change the flight. Just to change the flight. The hotel gave us a night for free.
Well, that's cool as shit. That's awesome. See, you never know. Sometimes you just gotta ask. Sometimes you just
so
gotta
it was
ask and you get
great.
cool shit.
If you don't ask, you don't get.
Mhm.
To be honest, we were doing so much stuff for my wife for this trip. So this is the one thing I was like, and we're gonna see an American, and I wore my USA Rugby jersey.
Yeah.
And TT came over and gave me a hug pre-match. It was cool.
Oh,
So it was really nice. But anyway,
The warm fuzzies.
yeah, no, it was cool because, like, I mean, how many times does he see a USA Rugby kit at Allianz? Like,
oh yeah.
So,
Totally.
but anyway, my around the pitch, I guess we'll call this the bite heard around the world. France flanker Alger Bartholomew admitted to biting the Irish player in the Women's Rugby World Cup quarterfinal, but appealed for 12-match suspension. I mean, we got more evidence than O.J. Simpson trial here.
Literally every news agency has covered this thing.
I mean, it hit the AP wire. We're talking the Women's Rugby World Cup quarterfinal match, which was a great match, by the way.
Yeah.
France won 18-13.
One try.
One try, but it was back and forth.
Had she been red carded, what happened?
Different game.
But also, if Ireland just score 50 points, they win.
Different game.
Fair.
But beyond that, this is getting more play than like some of what Alona Mar does, and I just find it.
I was going to say it's bigger news than Alona Mar for sure right now.
And the best is it says in reviewing the matter live, the TMO was unable to determine clear and obvious foul play and did not have the benefit.
She was sucking on her leg. What did she think was happening?
Here's the last part of that sentence, and did not have the benefit of the additional evidential submissions to corroborate. So they didn't. The TMO did not have the angle that we all see post match.
Why?
How is that? How?
That's a good question. I don't know. I
don't know why the TMO and the Australia-Argentina match screwed up?
It could be. This isn't the first time that we've seen a TMO make a call, and then after the match, you see a different angle, and you're like, how come they didn't see that? But sometimes you see that in the NFL too. So I wonder if there's just too many angles that they're looking at, or maybe they're only specific shots they get to actually look at. I'm
depending
on
which cameras are set up where and like where.
Yeah.
Like not every camera broadcasts to the booth.
Exactly. So I wonder. And
still, that's wild.
It was actually an 18 suspension and reduced to 6. But I don't know how you appeal that anymore. Like, what do you do? Go to an anti-biting class? Like
anything less than that for biting? Are you kidding me?
Well, like you can. I mean, let's be honest.
This is in the 1990s?
When you talk about mitigation,
there are no rules.
Well, so and so's been so and so's been carded before for high tackles. It would be weird if they went back and said she was carded for biting
somebody
previously.
before. I mean,
Mike Tyson style.
Hey, what about the Uruguayan soccer player, Luis Suarez? He got caught biting 3 times.
Yes.
So repeat biters.
I mean, that's
They're
just
out there.
it is
Repeat offenders for biting.
it's crazy. But yeah, so she's down to a
missed
12 from an 18.
Preschool. It's a very distinct lesson in preschool.
Obviously, she's gonna miss the semifinal and the final match of the Rugby World Cup. And she's the donkey of the World Cup, in my opinion. That play. But yes, going back, according to the officials, the TMO was not given that footage.
Hey, I want to bring up one more thing here,
Sure.
Scott.
Sure.
We've been discussing this now on Facebook or probably all the social
That's
media.
the best
I'm
way
just old, so Facebook is where I
figure it
live.
out.
But the discussion about how much of this money, this $250 million that World Rugby is given to the USA,
Donating to
is
the
going to
States.
MLR, which is this. It's a goose egg. None of that is going to MLR directly. Potentially to Anthem. We don't know.
Okay. So I'm gonna big screen this so you guys aren't associated with what I'm about to say. So I put my tinfoil hat on, and what I'm thinking is, and it's completely out there, and I'll say this is just my own thinking. This isn't Rob thinking. This is the Rugby Rant thinking. This isn't Rick or Ash thinking. There's a reason why that announcement came after all these teams folded, after another team might be out of the MLR. And to me, that reason is USA Rugby is waiting for the MLR to fold, and then they're going to start their own style of professional league. And what they're going to do is I think they're going to follow a PR7s model where they just kind of make 6 regional teams and not necessarily have that tournament style play because it would just take too long, but just kind of set up and pick a region, do a Chicago, do a New York or Boston or even a Connecticut, because you could split that. It's not that far of a drive for some people. Have a southern team probably in Georgia, right? That would be a hub with the airport and things like that. Maybe just have a northwest, a southwest, a central, a south, southeast, and a northeast, and have their own league and make it all American. And that's what's going to power us, I guess, through 2031 as far as getting up to professional standard. So back to our regular schedule programming. But yeah, we're not going to get, the MLR is not going to get any of that money. We could talk about that later. Again, that's just my tinfoil hat theory. Because why come out with that when the MLR is floundering? Why even come
Really,
out
at
with
this
that?
point,
Right
you're
now?
not actually wearing a tinfoil hat. Tell me,
honestly,
you have one under your desk.
I was gonna do one, and then my wife was like, "We don't have enough tinfoil, and we'll leave it
to fit on your big head." Got it.
I mean, you could have just like put a layer of tinfoil on an actual hat. I feel like we could have, this could have been done differently.
You can, Scott. I guess we'll go with the butane.
Disappointed.
This is my butane lighter hat. I guess I don't know. Oh, this is a good one. My Freemasons challenge coin hat, because I'm a Freemason.
There you go.
That'll put you right in the National Treasure.
Great movie.
But seriously, that's my tinfoil thinking about it, and we'll see whatever comes to fruition. But anyway, so we're gonna ask these guys 5 questions that we're gonna answer about the upcoming season, and we have some ideas about what might be going on through some sources, and I know we've gotten shit on Facebook about oh well, tell us what your sources are. If our sources don't want to be named, we're not going to name them. Just know that we're really not pushing anything out there that we're not hearing from people within the teams, within the league. If I'll put it this way, the Houston news, we had heard conflicting reports around the same time Miami was leaving about Houston. We had 2 or 3 sources that said yes, 2 or 3 sources that said no. And we said, okay, well, that's not, there's not a clear message here. So until the team decided, and I got to be honest, we all kind of heard the news the day of, before they put out a statement. Rugby Rant didn't put out a statement before the team did, because that's not fair. So for all those people that want to say, we're also not fucking journalists, man. It's me and fucking Rob Hammerschmidt. I'm an accountant. Rob's a fucking teacher. Jesus Christ. But just so you know, we don't just talk out of our ass. We're not fear mongering. We do know there could be 1 to 2.
Not like some of the people on Reddit, but yeah.
Yeah, but my point is, it's funny because they don't want to call out Reddit, but all of a sudden they want to call out the big guy in the Rugby Rant. And it's some people who've always not liked what we do. And some people who've given us information that we found out has not been true too. So, but
some people just want to watch the world burn, Scott.
Yeah, well, don't even get me started. But anyway, so we're going to be talking about some things that might be coming to fruition in the MLR through sources that we have talked to. So we're going to have 5 questions we're going to try and answer, and we're going to see what everybody comes up with. I really wish Rob was here. Unfortunately, he's sick. But we might be talking about these in the next couple weeks after a couple of announcements come out. So hold on. We're going to get ready for the rant. Okay, so the first question is what we're hearing, which people don't like that phrase either, apparently, is the MLR is looking to lower the foreign player limit. We've heard maybe down to 5. We've heard, maybe it's less, maybe it's more. It's probably not tradable. So the question is, it's 2 parts. Is lowering the foreign player limit better for the MLR, and is it better for the USA Eagles? Whoever wants to start.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah. And the reason for that, right? Rugby is in theory so new to, we'll say, pop culture in the States. Like, I played it at university, which was 08 to 2012, and it's been in my world for that amount of time. But it's still an emerging sport in D1 athletics, where you've got a lot of club teams, you've got some D1, D2, D3, collegiate sponsored versus, so it's messy. It's really messy. But people want to play, people love it. The women, obviously we see a lot with women's rugby, and men's rugby is figuring it out with that big qualify win this past weekend. So the more we can focus on giving the option to these players, but still having more seasoned people around to help, I think is important. But if we need to grow, what is it, 2031? We got that. Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to disagree. I love the idea of more playing time for American players, but I think not having, if we're saying that the salary cap is the same, and let's say we're at 7 teams, I think you're actually better off doing an 8-player cap, no trading of those foreign player assets, and a 15-player foreign limit on the roster. That way, your entire development team is built on USA players developing. So if you've got a 30-man roster, half of that roster is going to be American players. So if you decide, well, we'd rather just have, 10, 11, 12 players that are foreign, because we don't want to pay a foreign player to ride the bench all the time, right? They don't even get to suit out. It's going to kind of push them away from doing that and building more of the development side within the American players. I think making it 5 or 6, the quality of play is going to go down. Plus the fact that even if you drop it that much, with the number of teams we've dropped, that's the biggest concern. We don't have enough opportunities for American players, even if you do drop that player, the foreign player limit. So I think the biggest issue is we need to get back up to 11 to 12 teams before 2031, and that's rapidly approaching. I mean, we've got 4 or 5 years to really get that number up within striking range of having enough American players in a professional environment winning games. The biggest concern now is overseas. We're not having as many opportunities overseas. So you've got to create those opportunities here, and we have less of them. I understand the point of trying to cut back and make it only 5 foreign player slots, but there's not going to be enough interest to play with 5 foreign players. Maybe if you can go get a contract in NPC or something like that, you might do that as an American rather than playing here. And the players that are playing here in MLR are the ones that Scott says he's picking from, right? Unless you're AJ McGinty.
Yeah.
So there's benefits both ways, but I think the biggest concern is the lack of opportunities to play professional rugby in the United States right now.
And here's the thing. How many American-born players are willing to relocate all the way to the East Coast from the West Coast, you know? So you've contracted LA and San Diego, and some of those guys are going to have a hard time moving to LA to even make that roster because of other financial commitments in their family, right? No teams in Texas. Are those guys going to be able to move financially with their family to another team, to another opportunity? Not everybody has that opportunity. So if decreasing it and making it more for American players, if that's what they're looking to do, how are they going to get those American players to those teams if you know 4 of them
They
are
can't
located
offer
in the
more
East
money
Coast?
to them. They're not going to be able to do that. They're going to have to spend more money on the foreign player slots and make sure they get 5 super good foreign players, right? It's concerning.
It's concerning. There's a money issue there for the Americans as well, you know. For me, I do think it's nice to say that. But again, you have to make sure that you're pulling in homegrown talent, and there's a lot of talent now in in the western part, the mountain side of the country that is Utah going to be able to pull talent from Nevada, right? Are people again versus they were probably closer to San Diego, right? Like regionally, how are you going to pull talent? That's where I'm concerned. As far as lowering the
Well, I mean, Utah's got the advantage of having a huge Polynesian population, but outside of that,
correct. But again, like if you want to do that way and do it your way, Rick, and say limit the foreign player spots total on the roster. Again, now you're going to pick up guys if the D1 clubs don't have enough guys. If you don't have the plentiful D1 clubs like New York had, where they had 3 total D1 clubs who are always in the top 5 rotation of the nation, right? So you could pluck guys that were almost MLR ready like that. Don't know if you're going to have that in other parts of the country, you know, like the Blaze just, I think, became D1 or D2, you know, like they just got a team up there. So Chicago has another team they could pull from.
Yeah.
But like, again, regionally, what are you really going to do? So that's a tough one. So number 2, this is a big one. You know, Bill Webb, former owner of Toronto Arrows, rest in peace, Bill. He was a good dude. I always, had great chats with him. He always wanted Canadian players to be considered foreign players for American teams. So the question is, should the MLR consider this idea?
You go first, Rick.
I think
Your
it's fine. We need to get a Canadian team in at some point. I know they're going to be desperate to have a professional setup going into the Rugby World Cup in 2027. It may just be too late at this point, but Pacific Pride's been building.
Yep.
There's possibility there. They talked about the Vancouver, or I think they were going to call themselves the Vancouver Swans. So there was rumors about that. I think the value's there for Canada for sure. And the fact, if they did make it where foreign players for Canada would only be Americans, and then for the U.S. teams, it would, Canadian players would be foreign player slots. Obviously, all the Canadian players from the national team would probably end up playing for that Canadian MLR team. I think it's huge value for them. I don't see why you wouldn't set that up if you're MLR. Makes all the sense in the world. I think also it's obviously we're talking about trying to build up American players. If you're going to go sign a bunch of those Canadian players and bring them over and play for New England, for example, which half the Canadian team that was playing on Saturday was playing for New England this last season. That I think that's a huge value for the United States as well. I don't see why they wouldn't do this.
Ashley?
Yeah. I mean, and it's, I don't know, in my opinion, like obviously MLR is the focus here, like building American rugby is it, but it also to me is, I always look at the bigger picture. And if we're still trying to create North American rugby, like it is a collective effort. So if we get in that Canadian team and they're developing their national team, we're developing ours. It's collective while still being competitive. And I think that's really valuable. Really valuable. So, I mean, it would make sense. Like technically they're foreign. We have different passports. Like we have different stuff. So, same league, but it would be, even hockey, right? Like there's so much crossover, but like they're still different. Everything's still separate.
Yeah.
So,
like Canadians haven't won a cup in 30 years, Always like to throw that out to my Canadian friends.
James is going to feel that hit below the belt right
He's going to be pissed he wasn't here.
Shout out to my boy Justin Phillips up there in Ontario in the Canadian Armed Forces. I always like to throw that in his face. I do agree. I do think Ashley hit on a good point about collaborative effort. When we've seen the best Canadian and American teams is when they're playing each other the most.
Yeah.
And they're competitive against each other. And now that we've kind of broken away from that, to me, I think we've seen a downturn in what's going on because we're playing against these tier 1 teams that really don't help us out, in my opinion. When we were close together in the standings, at the same level, and we were playing each other 4 or 5 times a year, I thought that iron sharpened iron, and it kind of brought us up to that just below tier 1, right? What I would do is I wouldn't make them 4 in this year. I would make them 4 when we actually have a team in the MLR, and I truly think it would be better off in Toronto if we decided we're going to have a team in 2027. Because right now, if you look at it, there's 4 teams on the 3 teams on the East Coast, Chicago, and then the 3 teams on the Western side. So having a Vancouver team who's going to have to cross over a lot on the East Coast probably doesn't make financial sense for an owner. Versus crossing over from Toronto will be easier for them. Chicago, the 3 East Coast teams, and then 1 or 2 West Coast teams on a crossover. And Toronto Arrows still have a really good academy team going, so they do kind of have it set up there. But Rick's point, having it in Vancouver where the national setup is also makes sense. But I think right now, if we had more West Coast teams, I think financially it would make sense. But let's get through 2026 and get a team in 2027, then make all the Canadian players nationals, foreign nationals. And then they can get their team back. They'll have Canadian anthems. We'll call them Anthem 2. Yeah. So number 3. So through Twitter, Facebook, all of our fun social media, we've heard fans throughout the concept of a 10 to 12 match schedule. Right now we have 7 teams. We may be having 6 teams. Alex Magleby throw out the fact that there could be 6 or 7 teams coming in 2026. So the question is 10 to 12 regular season games enough?
No.
That's simple. I mean, the unison of that was it was like synchronized swimming. And it was you got a 10 from the West German judge. That was perfect.
No, we've got to have at minimum a 15 game season, if not 16 games, before the playoffs. We need, especially building up towards the 2027 World Cup. We're trying to build. I think both Canada and the United States are both trying to build towards 2031. Right, both hosting. It's going to be a huge bump for both teams playing that year. I think the idea is both teams should be building, if they're not, building towards that year instead of 2027. Yes, it'd be nice to get some wins in 2027, but we got to start thinking, big picture, long haul. And I don't see how you can get players experienced enough at a high enough level with only 10 to 12 matches in a season, even if they're going to go play PNC. Now, if you had some kind of deal with the PNC or, whatever other foreign leagues that you could, championship or something like that, where you could get them playing in both for a good, chunk of time, maybe you could work out something, but I just don't see that happening. We've got to have the matches here, and they've got to be playing continuous rugby with their teammates here.
Well, and it speaks to, your salaries, right? It's got to be convincing enough for them to be paid. And if they're being paid, it's a salary, but in theory, it's a per game, a lot. And then from the fan experience, who's to say you can make most of those games? Is it going to be five home games, 5 away games? What's the fan experience around such a short schedule? It kind of deters.
Can't be much of a fan if you can only get 3 or 4 games in a season.
Yeah, that's that. I'm to me, it'd be what's the point? I love it, but why am I invested into this thing for such a short amount of time? I was going to say minimum, it's got to be, if we have 7 teams, 6 teams, it doesn't, you've got to have a minimum of your 14. That was, so 15, 14. But to be competitive, to keep athletes out here, to be committed enough to it, because if it's so short, they're probably not committed to the mentality of being here for that amount of time. So you haven't, it can't be 10 to 12 games. The difficult thing is travel costs, right? We just discussed, we've got 3 teams over here, 1 in the middle, 3 teams out this way. And so then it's like, how do we structure the games so that it will mitigate costs for teams? Because if financial stuff is something that always weighs heavy at the beginning of a league, and we're going to be, is this season 9? 8?
Yes.
9. This 2026 will be 9, right? We're still babies. Like MLR is still babies, but we've got to, it has to be a longer schedule. You can't have a 10 to 12 game season, and most people take it serious enough to really create, again, back to collaboration and competitive. It's got to be longer.
Yeah.
Well, the other problem is the fact that we have odd number of teams. So let's just say we had 6 teams, right? I could see 6 teams having a 12 match schedule over 15 weeks. And that way you have 3 weeks, you have 5 matches and then everybody has a bye week. No. 4 matches, everybody has a bye week. 4 matches, everybody has a bye week. 4 matches, everybody has a bye week before the semifinals of the playoffs, which is going to be our next question. And the only reason I say that is to do that now is to show the viable product, make sure everybody's more closer to the black without all the traveling cost that you would have with an extra season. And the only good thing to come out of it was because it's shorter, now we can actually have a real fucking camp for the Eagles. Because we're always rushing to have a camp for the Eagles because the MLR playoffs are running into camp.
Well, you don't have to worry about playing in the South, really. I mean, Anthem, but outside of that, it's all going to be, if you're in the late spring, it's going to be nice weather at most of the stadiums.
Exactly. So you can start a little bit later, end a little bit earlier with that type of 15 week plus a semifinal and a final, and still have a really decent camp to going into the international window, which is something we really need to do. We don't have locks for the fucking Eagles. We have no lock. We have no true locks.
I don't get it. I've been talking about this for years now.
Me and Rick have been saying this for how long? You can't teach height.
At least 2
find
years.
a fucking basketball player and fucking teach him rugby. Jesus Christ.
Yep. So my college coach did. He recruited basketball, track. That was because it's like
you
have the skill, you have the height.
Shortest locks. When I played, our locks 5'8", but they were animals. They were like extra players on the field. Terrible scrummages because we never had support as props to actually somebody to push us. But
it made me miss having Cam as a lock back in the day, and then forgot that he started out as an 8-man.
And it's funny. So you talk. So go on a tangent. Yeah, to go on a tangent, you talked about the lack of American players playing in foreign leagues. Most of them have been locks because again, you can't teach height. So even on an international level, in a higher level professional league.
Yeah,
they were looking for guys who are that 6'8", 6'9".
Mafu, Van Erten, yep.
Chavetta,
yeah,
Cam, Brakely. Those are the types of guys that would go over and kind of work that out. And we don't have that now. But so you kind of went into the 2 next questions. We kind of went. So what we're going to do is we're going to flip 4 and 5. So because of the smaller number of games, there'll be smaller play checks for players. And this is something Ashley alluded to in her answer. So this moves away from a lot of the fans' notions that there's going to be more money going to players because, listen, there's going to be less games. Will these salaries really keep the players playing rugby in the States? We may not have to deal with a foreign player slot if they don't think it's worth for them coming over to get paid here, So do we think having the smaller number of games, thus going into a less amount of contract, is going to keep players playing rugby here professionally?
I think it puts a strain. I think it's going to challenge because it's mentorship. Longer season, more games. Yes, the cap, whether it be 5, whether it be 8, whether it be 15 on the roster versus on the field, there's still a portion of mentorship involved with having foreign players over here. So we do need them. We want that capacity. So for me, if the salary is impacting that, it's a bummer. I think it's going to hurt us a little bit as we try to continue to grow this and really get interest with a few, they don't have to be the biggest names, but they've got to be something. And if we have a shorter schedule and it's not convincing enough for foreign players to be coming over, I think it's going to impact the quality of play, which we kind of talked a little bit about earlier as well. But it comes into player to player mentorship in addition to coaching.
It's brutal. I think the only way you get around it is like I was saying before, is you get a deal done with NPC or an Australian level 2 or championship or something where you can get your players some playing time. There's Prem Cup going on right now. Could they be playing in that until February? You've got to just figure out a way to get these guys paychecks and playing time, because if you get 10 games, they're not getting paid enough. Why wouldn't you just take the $70,000-$80,000 day job? If you don't think you're going to be an Eagle, right? I mean, I would say 90% of these guys, right? They're there because they think they've got a shot at making the national team and playing in a World Cup potentially sometime. So if that option isn't there, then why wouldn't you take the day job that you're going to be doing something after rugby anyway? So it's going to be really difficult. I think if they went to a shorter schedule, I'd be very concerned.
It's funny because you see a guy like former, not former, he wasn't selected, but you see a guy like Rob Ermescu who wasn't selected by the Eagles because, let's be honest, our hooker's stacked for. That's a position we don't have to worry about for a long time. So he just didn't fit there. And luckily, because his parents were born in Romania, he had the opportunity to go play for Romania, started in a World Cup game. He's currently playing in Australia for West Harbour, in New South Wales. So he's a guy that I would look at and say, there are other Americans who could do that and play in Australia. Don't know why they don't get a look like he did, but there are definitely guys at his level that's currently playing the MLR that I think would be more beneficial for them to play on a West Harbour team. And then you could pull a guy who's maybe a little younger, doesn't have a family, doesn't have the career set yet, to pay them that type of salary to kind of ply the trade for a year or two and build them up to a professional level, right? And now you've bolstered the back end of a roster. Again, don't know why. I think everybody's fighting for that anthem spot. And my question is,
why?
And also, Scott Lawrence going around saying, I'm only going to pick guys that play in the MLR. I feels like short-sighted because
you're not going to be able to. You're not going to be able to do that with 6 to 7 teams and a 10 to 12 game schedule.
I mean, there's a reason that the highest level Eagles on the women's side are still playing in the UK. You know what I mean?
It's the best league, best professional league in the world.
And a lot of them are getting contracts because they're already at that level. So what's that do? What that does is that makes the women playing in the WER start their professional journey and start to learn how to be a professional, which is what I kind of like, because that's the biggest transition from when MLR started.
Women they're set up. This is perfect situation for them with the women's Premier League starting up over in the UK. And now with the WER, they have a perfect situation.
They can come back in the spring and play WER if they want to, or they can continue. They could go right to camp, because you've seen like Tess Fury went and played WER for pretty much the whole season. So they have the opportunity to, but it also brings those women who don't get the Eagles professional setup into a professional setup and kind of ease them into that transition.
100%. The biggest thing for me, and I've been saying this for a little while now, the USA doesn't, the men don't have that, because from MLR to premiership, or whatever they're calling it, Prim now, or whatever, Prim and Proper, they should just call it that, it's more than one level up, right? For the women, I think the WER to the Premier League in the UK is one level. So it's nice. It fits perfectly for developing. We're 2 levels below, and we don't have a 1 level up nearby. The nearest we have for 1 level up would be NPC, or in South Africa playing at the 2nd level there, which nobody wants to those contracts, So it's a big concern. And, I've been saying a team in the URC, a team in Super Rugby, as a stepping stone sort of team, could help develop the Eagles better. I'm just saying, I think that would be a great stepping stone. I understand it's difficult, but you have to admit, you've heard from people, there have been calls, there have been talks, at least with URC.
You want to know why that's funny? Is there's a reason the South Africa teams went to the URC. Because they're not traveling 7 fucking time zones. They're traveling 1 or 2 and up. So that the change is not exponential in their travel when they're on the team. So my point is, I just find it funny that when they expanded the South African teams, it was because the South African teams didn't want to fly to Australia because their teams were getting beat up from the travel. So they're flying up. It's one thing. Again, maybe you're adding an hour here or there, depending on where you are in Europe.
Right.
So now the URC wants to expand and have us travel 5 fucking time zones. What does that make? That wouldn't make sense.
Defeats the purpose.
and they're not going to fucking travel here. Let's be honest. Those owners are from the URC are not going to come to fucking Quincy.
Oh, no, they're not going to play in Quincy, sir. If there's a URC team, this is what everybody gets confused. They're like, just put the Free Jacks in the URC. No. You'd have a full legit professional setup here in a 10,000 person stadium.
Where?
They would build it. Like the URC would have to invest for this to happen. They're not. So you're talking about they're not going to.
So not only hold on, wait. So not only are the owners going to travel across the Atlantic Ocean,
do it.
Wait. The owners, the league is going to pay at least $15 million to build a stadium.
Yes.
Rick, how many fucking whiskeys have you drank?
I'm telling you, this is the thing that's going to happen eventually. Because they want this market. They want the TV market. Do you know how much money that TV market would bring the URC?
Of course, you are right. But the product would be shit.
I'm not saying it would be.
Maybe.
So what happens is
better.
So what happens
would have no USA players on it, to be fair.
No. So here's the thing. I'm not saying it would be shit because there's USA players. I'm saying it would be shit because, again, you're crossing. We have college and NFL teams who cross from the East Coast to the West Coast and play like shit. And there's data on it. That happens a lot, and they're only going 3 time zones.
They're expanding more. Dude, so explain that.
3 time zones. Yeah, but you're having both teams travel to fucking Brazil, Rob. Rick. Both teams traveling to Germany for the week, and they're there for the week. These URC teams are going to show up on Thursday and fly back home on Sunday after a Saturday match.
No, they'd fly. You do where the South African teams would fly to Boston or New York, wherever the team might be, maybe Miami, and then they would fly to the UK. Carolinas. It would just be a stopover.
So now you're talking about 5 weeks of these URC teams not seeing their family, because that's great for player mental health. Rick,
I mean, South Africa's got to do whatever South Africa is going to do. The URC is going to pull the strings on it, whether the South African teams are cool with it or not. They don't really have a choice, to be honest.
I'll put it this way. I think the actual rugby the product would not look good. And then you'd have a revolt from the people in Europe who already thumb their noses at us about being Americans. And we don't know what the fuck rugby's about. And then again, it wouldn't be because of the actual team. It would literally be because they're traveling 5 time zones to play these matches here.
Exhausting. Yeah.
Who is not going to come?
And then Rick. So they're going to be. Hold on. Wait. So the European teams are going to fly here. When are we playing these matches? 10 a.m. So they're prime time in fucking Europe. Who's getting the prime time television?
10 a.m. It would be like 12. It'd be like noon. That's fine.
Who's getting the prime time television?
It's a 6-hour difference.
And you're gonna give the prime time television.
It's a 5-hour difference in New York and Boston.
And you're gonna give the prime time television to the Europeans.
That's fine. All they care about is all the expats, all the Leinster fans in the United States are gonna fly to New York and Boston for those games, or Miami, wherever it is.
What if you did a tournament style thing that we were talking about earlier a little bit, where like everybody just comes in? There's like
You could have two.
Like
You
everybody
could have
plays
maybe
here
okay.
once or twice a
That's
year, but
interesting.
everybody's under the same conditions. So you remove some of the variables of.
So we're playing
well,
COVID rugby. Is what we're
I
doing
mean,
in the bubble.
We're talking about MLR doing that. That would be stupid. I'm so against that. Like coming in and doing
It can't
traveling
happen.
sideshow.
Yeah, it can't for the 15s game. It just can't happen, unfortunately.
No.
We used to do it again. Division IV, we would play at Linden State College, which is now called something else, I believe. And that's only because the farm next door, you could put about 4 or 5 pitches, so you could play a full tournament of men's and women's matches in 2 days. You know, because you had 4 or 5 pitches, but we're not going to have that here. I mean, even if you went to play at like, the Boston Irish, they got 4 pitches cornered, caddy cornered, but there's no real stands, so you can't sell that many tickets.
Yeah, you're not selling.
We don't have that here. Yeah.
Back to money.
It all comes down to money. Follow the money.
Dollar bills.
So going back, the last question we have is, assuming 6 to 7 teams, what would the playoffs look like? What do you think the playoffs should look like?
It's not a playoff if you just do a championship game. It's just a championship at the end.
So you're saying top 2 play for a championship.
I don't like that. I like to at least have some skin in the game. I think a Western Conference final versus an Eastern Conference final, even though it's 2 or 3 teams, basically. I mean, it's kind of silly.
But Chicago is Notre Dame. They're just not affiliated. Is that what we're going?
Just independent.
So it'd be
they play an East Coast ACC schedule, but they're really not ACC.
So you'd have a Chicago versus New England, most likely in the East, and then California versus Seattle or Utah in the West, and then whoever wins that then plays the championship. I think you have to.
I agree with the semifinal portion just because it gives home teams an advantage of an extra home match, to make some money. But I would say just top 4 go.
Yep. I would say it's still the point structure, right? Yeah. I love NHL and the way that they structure all that stuff. I love that MLR has kind of moved into the point stuff. Like, we have 2 conferences, but we have 7 teams, 6 teams, 7 teams, like whatever. You have 1 column of people. You have 2 semifinals and a final. So top 4 in points. That's one
plays 4, 2 plays
Scott,
3.
You're saying more like what the
1 plays 4, 2 plays 3.
What the Premiership does, which is one table with the top 4 teams playing in the playoffs, rather than, so let's say it's New England, DC, and Chicago and California are the top 4 teams. Whether they're in Western or Eastern, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Those are your 4 playoff teams?
Yes. And then 1 plays 4, 2 plays 3.
I don't know, because if you got
I just like to say, hold on, wait. I think that was a shot at Ashley because he didn't put Utah in the top 4. I'm just pointing that out.
I was gonna let it go, but
I'm sorry, but with LA and San Diego combining, if they keep half those players, I expect them to come out of the West.
But yes, I think if you just take the top 4 point scorers, and that what that does is that forces teams to play a way more aggressive style of rugby to try and score more points.
You can't just go play an Eastern Conference team and take it lax because it doesn't matter as much.
It's going to come down to bonus points and point differentials. Okay. And I got to be honest, even when we had the conference system, when we had 6 teams apiece, 8 teams apiece, it was coming down to bonus points and point differentials for those last couple guys. I mean, how many times did New York and NOLA, I think it was 3 years in a row, New York beat NOLA on a point differential or a bonus point at the end of the season to get into a playoff spot, and those were exciting. So I think it's going to give you a better style of rugby if you just, at this point, went the top 4.
No conferences, top 4 in the league.
Yeah, it's just cleaner that way, in my opinion.
And you get your 2 semifinal games, and then you get your championship.
And listen, play for that extra, to be the home team, play to be one of the top 2 teams to get the extra home game.
Yep.
And then go back to whoever is seated highest gets the fucking championship.
Whoever's seated highest at the end of the season.
No. Whoever's seated highest. So 1 plays 4 and 2 plays 3.
Right.
If number 2 win and number 4 win, the number 2 team is the home team for the championship.
For the championship.
But then you won't know the championship location until the very last week. So
which is the hard part, but you'll have all the trade-off is you'll have the home team fans there, at least.
Okay. All right.
So, or you know what? Chicago should be the pick to be the fucking championship venue no matter what.
It's in the middle.
Exactly.
Because it's
Most
when
likely
they hosted it had great.
The weather's
great
going to be
turnout.
nice. You got a nice city to go hang out in during the day.
It's successfully. And
Far
again,
better
you
than
get
the
enough
Rhode Island
people eventually, you
situation.
can move into a larger.
and if you have a team from the East Coast and a team from the West Coast, everybody's traveling relatively the same. Or even if you have 2 teams from the West Coast or 2 teams from the East Coast, everybody's still traveling relatively the same.
Right.
If
I love
Chicago
the
gets
idea
in,
of having
luck of the draw.
like Glendale being like, if they could figure out a way to get that MFer out of there and make Glendale the championship location every year, because in June it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous.
And perfect pitches, everything. You have everything for the fans. I don't know. Anyway,
listen, I
thoughts
see where you're getting there. I see where you're
Rick
getting
Collins.
there. But so real quick before we go, it's give me 1 second. I got to bring this up. So our buddy Adam Hughes has written for us on the Rugby Rant website, and he has just come out with a book of poetry called Pluck that's going to be published, and we're going to provide the link in the in the description here, or you can go to adamhughesauthor.com and purchase the book. I purchased the book. He's going to be doing a bunch of readings around the nation out of his poem book Pluck. I'm very excited to get it. He's actually doing a reading right by me. He's out of the Virginia area, I believe, the DMV. He's actually doing a reading like 30 minutes away from me. My wife's going to be away. I already got my parents to babysit the kids. I'm going to go down and hang out with him and watch his reading. So again, that book is called Pluck, and you can go to adamhughesauthor.com, and I'll put the link in the bio here. I just want to give him a shout out because that's a big, big achievement having a book there published. So guys, anything you want to plug?
I'll plug the Jakl Den. We're still alive, barely hanging by threads, but we still have a large Facebook presence. We're still supporting the national teams. We're still supporting MLR. Many of us are now becoming Anthem fans. Our head coach is now the head coach officially of Anthem, as we saw in that recent press release. And several of our players are playing over there. So we'll be following the Anthem very closely this next season.
Warriors Ohana. That's what we do. President of that. And we've got our first fall meeting coming up shortly to start to plan for 2026. So
I wish I could be doing that. That would be nice.
Don't be nice.
The bank account we set up, the LLC we were incorporating. Yeah.
Listen, go with our buddy Daryl McCormick, Rick, and fold in the Jakl Den into what he's doing down in the Carolinas, man.
He does a great job with the North Carolina.
Collaborative yet competitive.
And as far as Rooney fans are concerned, we are now Exiles fans. So come out to WR Exiles matches down in Mount Vernon. I was lucky to go to the first 3, and then I got the new baby. And
go Onyx. I picked them in the beginning of the season.
Listen, they had the most Eagles, so duh. But like, we're gonna get there. I think the Eagles are spread out now that the league is kind of a little more established going into season 2. So I'm really excited.
During the summer, Colorado is just Texas 2.
Yeah,
because all the Texans leave to go to Colorado for the nice weather. So
that's crazy.
Nice
anyway,
weather.
Guys,
It was hot in Colorado.
I go every summer. So. Got to get out of here.
Anyway, guys, this was a great episode. Really appreciate you having on. I'm the big guy, Scott Ferrara.
Yeah. Anytime. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, but of course, guys. Appreciate it. This is episode 220 even. Wow. 220. I'm the big guy, Scott Ferrara. We'll see you next week.